Go on, tough it out.
The challenging nature of environmental change is such that it extends beyond the capacity of the decision makers and authorities, and it has to now also include those members of communities as well as of commercial towns. With that being said, the objective of this video, as well as others within this series, is to present to the person that is on the ground who lives within the communities, give them insight towards understanding the environment, the landscape that in which they live, and as such to help them to be better able to mitigate as well as to reduce their or his or her vulnerability to flooding. Located on the eastern end of the island, St. Thomas is bordered by Portland, Kingston, St. Andrew, as well as the Caribbean Sea. The physical landscape of St. Thomas is such that it has plains, hills, mountains, valleys. On the coast, we can also see bays and inlets. With this diverse physical geographic makeup, the nature of flooding is also diverse. Additionally, with St. Thomas having multiple nuclei of towns whereby commerce takes place, it also provides that degree of diversity in terms of the flooding risk or the nature of the flooding risk that can affect a particular community that resides nearby to this nuclei of commercial activity. Flooding nature across St. Thomas, specific to the location of mention as well as the physical geography. With Morant Bay, License, and Port Morant located close to the coastline, the flooding that these towns can experience are coastal floods, urban floods. The corridor of Golden Grove to Amity Hall and adjacent communities, this area is prone to river flooding. Bath, with its botanical garden, is a popular attraction. The nature of flooding that is dominant within this area is river flooding. For the town of Seaforth and the community of Danvers Pen, the flooding that dominates are river flooding and urban flooding. For the areas of Albion and Yallahs, the flooding that dominate is coastal flooding. Grandspen, urban flooding. The community of Easington, Landaway, Trinityville, and adjoining communities, river flooding. Vulnerability reduction tips. So chiefly, to you listening, one of the critical things you can do to reduce your vulnerability in the event of a flood is to adhere to the instructions given by the authorities. If it's a case that the authorities instruct you to vacate your property in the event of a storm, so to speak, or given the announcement of flash flood watch or flash flood warning, then with you being on the ground and observing rising water levels, particularly if you live nearby a river, you should consider leaving the property. Additionally, what you should also consider is that with the landscape changing, with more roads being built, and with trees being removed for the roads to be built within St. Thomas, you are going to experience an increased speed in terms of flooding because the trees would work towards slowing down the rate at which the flood can occur. So when we remove that natural landscape by putting on asphalt, we increase that hard surface area, and as such, surface runoff and urban flooding can occur. Hence why urban flooding predominates in areas where towns, cities are located. Another thing that you should consider is that if you are going to be living in an area that is prone to flooding by rivers, then you should ensure that you are developing your property specific to the advice given by the planning authority or the parish council in Jamaica's context. That will give you the guidelines in terms of how far away from the river banking you should build, and or other specifications relating to the height of the foundation or the depth of the foundation, etc. Likewise, if you live close to the coastline or if you conduct commercial activity near the coastline, then you should be adhering to the advice given by the parish authority in terms of how far away you should build or how far away your physical property should be from the coastline as a safety parameter. And just the same, that in the event of storms, if it's a case where you are advised to vacate the area, then you should consider doing so. What you should also consider if you conduct business on the coastline or reside along the coastline is the nature of sea level rise. And with sea level rise, it also means then that the reach of high tide or of storm surges increases further inland. So again, the dynamic of environmental change requires that you are just the same flexible in your capacity to adapt with the change, and as such reduce your vulnerability to the hazard of floods.